Okie dokie, guys. Welcome to session three or series three of our four series, Midlife Metabolism. I'm super excited to jump in today and to talk about cortisol, cardio, and fuel timing is kind of the theme. What I want to remind everybody is on series one, we kind of did an overview of everything. Last week, we did muscle is your metabolism. So we talked a lot about our muscle, the importance of muscle. So if you're missing any of the first series or second series, let us know if you're not on the replay list or on our Facebook page. I remembered to upload those today for series one and series two, and I'll get series three up after today. But you'll want to reference those because each thing kind of builds on the first big overview. And what we're talking about today will kind of be a catalyst off of what we talked last week because muscle is super, super important. But we're going to also talk a little bit about cortisol and cardio and fuel timing just to move things along. And then lastly, before we end, we'll recap things. Next, 2 Thursdays from now will be insulin, inflammation, and blood sugar balance. So it's all going to circle back around to our big overview. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm going to let Tasha screen share. She's going to kick us off with information on cortisol. And you go, girl.
All right, you got it. I also, Shalene, I think one of the other things you might want to make available in case anyone missed it was when we did that hormone masterclass, because tonight we're going to kind of like reflect back and refer back a little bit to that as we talk about cortisol. So, let me kind of move you guys around and get into presentation mode here. Can Paula, I can see you on my screen. Can you give me a thumbs up that you can see my slides? Awesome. Um, so the reason I say you might want to have that hormone webinar that we did is because we talked about a number of hormones and we talked about the challenges that we face in midlife as our hormones start to change, right? And for the most part, we talked about hormone decline as the challenge and what happens when we have hormone decline. But that is not usually our challenge when it comes to cortisol, right? Most of us know cortisol, or what we believe about cortisol is that it is the stress hormone. And while that's true, while the body makes cortisol in response to stress, it's actually one of our most important survival hormones. It helps us with energy production and blood sugar levels and blood pressure, our immune response, our inflammation response, the alertness and focus of our mind. Without cortisol, we wouldn't be able to wake up or respond to challenges or maintain energy through the day. So we think about it as our fight or flight or our caveman survival run from the tiger kind of hormone, but it's way more than that. So that should beg the question of us, why do we have cortisol? And yes, it did evolve to help us to adapt to stress and stay safe and escape danger. But today we have to think of it as a hormone that helps us to maintain stability in the body. We've already said it helps us to wake up in the morning and respond to challenges. But it also helps us to mobilize energy when we need it. And in healthy physiology, cortisol follows a very predictable daily rhythm. You may have heard of it referred to as the body's circadian clock. Does that sound familiar? to any of you? Anybody heard of the circadian clock? What do you think about when you hear circadian clock? What does circadian mean to you guys? Usually we think about a response to light, right? It's the way our body responds to light and dark, and that is true. This circadian rhythm or this circadian clock is also called the master slave clock. And here's how it works, really high level. Cortisol rises in the morning, right? It comes up pretty fast. It rises pretty steep and fast in the morning, usually right before we wake up. And that's what allows us to wake up in the morning. And cortisol is active in the day, but what it's actually doing is it's actually declining over the course of the day. And then in the evening, when the sun goes down, we get an increase in melatonin. So cortisol and melatonin are acting in the exact opposite rhythm. When cortisol's high, melatonin's low. When melatonin's high, cortisol is low. And this is the rhythm that we see timed with the light and the dark of the sun and the day and the night. So, when this is working correctly, when our cortisol comes up appropriately, we're able to wake up and be alert and maintain focus during the day. And then at the end of the day, we're able to go in, lay down, and fall asleep at night. How many of you have that happen just like that every single day? You wake up refreshed in the morning and you're able to go to sleep. And that's why I said it, Shay, because it just in midlife, that is not the way it happens. Again, we need to be asking why, right? Why is this happening to me? And we talked a little bit about how some of our androgens and estrogens can disrupt things and create insomnia or sleep difficulties for us. But I want to suggest that we're facing another problem today. And this problem we could label as chronic cortisol activation. So here's what we see. We actually see that for so many people, they are just running high and hard on cortisol, high and hard and way too long. You see four different cortisol response patterns here in these four graphs. Some people have an adaptive cortisol response and it's constantly spiking, but it never really falls down to where it should be. Other people are experiencing chronic stress over a long period of time and their cortisol just keeps climbing. What we see a lot in the chronic stress over many years is we see adrenal failure. Do you see when that high hard cortisol falls really rapidly and goes down into the yellow zone? That's adrenal fatigue and adrenal failure, right? And we see that really commonly. And obviously, when this is happening and when cortisol is staying high and running flat for so long, it's not allowing our melatonin to fluctuate the way that it should. So it suppresses melatonin production, and thus we don't sleep. I know you've been there. Um, Raise your hand or just, nod if you've ever, you go to bed at night and as soon as your head hits the pillow, your mind starts racing. So you're tired, you're exhausted, you're ready for bed, but your mind's on fire. And then in the morning, when your alarm clock goes off, you're like, oh my gosh, I need 2 more hours. And then about 2 p.m. in the afternoon, you hit a wall and you're exhausted. And that's when you're craving sugar and, all of those kind of things. We get in trouble at 2 p.m. or we need to go take a nap. So here's why this matters. When cortisol stays too high for too long, or even when it just stays too high at night on that random night, Melatonin cannot rise properly, and this disrupts our sleep cycle. We actually have very predictable patterns of sleep that we go through each and every night. You guys have all heard about REM. That's the deep repair and recovery sleep. That's the period of sleep where our immune system does its cleanup and where our growth hormone is released. And surprisingly, what does growth hormone do? It sends the signal to build muscle, right? We need to talk about that. And so when we don't ever get there, we do not get the repair and the recovery. And that's why we can say high cortisol leads to compromised immune response. It leads to changes in body composition. It leads to weight gain. When Shalene and I were prepping for this, we were talking, and I'm like, I think we should tell them that, they can sleep their way to weight loss because that's really exciting to me. But really there's some reality to that. And if this goes on for a long period of time where we're high and hard on our cortisol and we do not get that melatonin up to produce that reparative sleep, we start to get really foggy, not just tired, not just sleepy, not just fatigued. Our brains are not working as well. And we do gain weight, and we're just not as resilient as we should be. So, tired but wired is a really good indication that your cortisol is too high and you're out of sync. Let me see if I can make this move. Okay, so the goal isn't to eliminate cortisol. I started off by telling you we need it. It's a survival hormone. It's what allows us to function and get stuff done during the day. We need it. We just need it to cycle with our melatonin appropriately. Okay? So that we can go to bed, fall asleep, rest, rest and repair, and then wake up refreshed in the morning. Now, I'm going to put a hold on this right here, and I'm just going to end with the thought or the idea that cortisol is not the enemy. It's an essential hormone. The key is just to have the right amount of it every single day at the right times. So after Shalene does her part, I'm going to give you some very clear, concrete things that you can do to ensure the right amount, right? Not too much, not too little. So we'll talk about that. And Shalene, I will stop sharing and flip the screen to you.
Okay. Well, I have to say, my mom came to me the other day because I crash at 2. She goes, I've never seen anybody that needs a nap as bad as you at 2 o'clock. I said, my body needs to recover. Stay off. My body needs to recover. It's recovering.
Only I don't think you're getting into REM at 2 in the afternoon, just
No,
saying.
I'm probably not. Amen, sister. Okay, let me put this in present mode. So, we are going to move from, again, I want to talk a little bit referencing off of our muscles and metabolism and how important muscle is in the season that we're in right now, building the muscle, maintaining the muscle that we're losing. But we also want to talk of the correlation of cortisol and the correlation of cardio. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever been in the gym experience. I grew up in the gym, and boys are always like, I don't do cardio. I just lift weights. And I'm always like, well, how are you? Your heart is a muscle. So why aren't you exercising your heart? That's just as important as everything else. You may have to do it a little differently now in this season of your life, but it's super important. And then I also want to debunk some of the things that people typically have heard, have lived by for a long time. So we're going to start off with the trap. Now, you can put this in the comments, you can unmute, you can raise your hand, but which ones of these traps have you fallen into? And I know I've fallen into several of them. First one being more cardio equals better results. Okay, I just need to go out for a longer run or more runs or more bike rides or a longer walk. I fell into that trap. Eating less means faster fat loss. Okay, I just need to eat less. Just need to not eat before I work out. Have you fallen into that trap? Pushing harder equals a stronger body. Okay, so doing more, doing two a days, pushing harder, that will make me stronger. Does that sound like something you've told yourself or heard? Um, but let's talk about a little bit about the truths to this because again, our body's changing, our hormones are changing, things are changing, and we need to just flux with the season. So when you see the old approach of, maybe in your younger days, you were able to go to the gym fasted or go work out with nothing in your belly and hit a high intensity workout really, really hard and recoup super, super fast. But you guys, we don't have to do that. And that's the good news is that cardio doesn't have to be the enemy. You can, if you love, like I'm kind of a weirdo. I love high intensity workouts. But what I do for high intensity workouts aren't the same that I did back in the day because they have to be fewer interspersed with more of a general recovery, active motion, walking kind of in this season. So our new approach is going to be more strategic with what we're doing and more strategic with our fueling because it is super, super important. And I'll talk about that a little bit. Again, that old mindset of more cardio, eat less, totally different now. You need the new mindset. You need to focus on recovery. You need to focus on your muscle mass. You need to focus on balancing out your movement of your body. So, I want to kind of reference and talk about something. And you can kind of put it in the comments if this is something you've heard. Have you ever heard about your body going into survival mode? And survival mode is something that is super, super common. And a lot of people don't know they're doing it. And this can come from skipped meals, under eating, pushing too hard in workouts, not getting enough sleep. And your body kind of goes into like a crazy, like, I need to hold on to everything I'm eating because I don't want to know when I'm going to get the next meal. Um, I'm working out. I need to repair. I don't know if I'm going to have enough fuel to repair. I mean, it's a survival mode that goes back from history of our ancestors when they lived with not all of the wonderful things we have and they didn't know when they would get their next meal. Your body is smart and you have to fuel it properly in order to keep not only like what Tasha was saying, your cortisol proper, but also the way your body feels. So I was thinking about this and I thought that we could kind of relate to this if you think of like your cell phone, okay? If you have your cell phone and the battery gets really, really low, what happens when your battery gets really, really low on your cell phone? A lot of times the lights will start dimming, some of the apps will quit working, the performance slows, and it's not broken, it's still working, but it's almost in its own survival mode. It's trying to keep the most important things going as long as it can when it has that little amount of battery or that little amount of fuel. So your body's not broken, it's just protecting you, okay? So in this, like when we look at what's happening, always remember chronic stress will spike your cortisol, and chronic stress can come from work environment, outside environment, family environment, workout environment. stress isn't just one place. It can come from lots of different places. Your body holds on to fat for that survival. Tasha talked about cortisol and how a lot of women will complain about belly and hip fat accumulation. But part of that is also making sure we're strategic with our fueling and cardio and muscle building, along with controlling are the other aspects that we'll talk about in the AM and PM to balance yourself out. Um, Again, muscle breakdown instead of building. High cortisol or doing too much and not fueling enough doesn't allow your body to recharge and rebuild. So Tasha talked a lot about your nighttime, your REM. Like I said before, my mom's like, "You're sleeping so much." And I'm like, "Because my body's repairing." Your muscles need, you break them down when you work out, and your body needs to rebuild them and repair them to be stronger and better. So that happens when you sleep and you repair. So we want to build muscle, not continue to break it down. And again, Tasha already talked about this, the energy crashes and cravings increase when your cortisol increases. So then you go grab for that caffeine, that snack in the afternoon. Just those things just go hand in hand. Um, Now, this was a slide I wanted to share because this kind of takes another big picture approach of what we've talked about so far, that understanding cortisol, cardio, and fuel timing in midlife and why it's different. One of them is hormonal shifts change the game. Our estrogen and progesterone fluctuations affect our metabolism. And again, if you're not in our Facebook group, I did check. I have in our guide section in the Facebook group, I do have our first hormonal video uploaded in there. You can always message one of us, and we're happy to get that to you. And that will go over the importance of, your hormones are changing right now. Also, midlife stress compounds faster. Body holds on to cortisol longer than it used to. We're just in a different season, you guys, and we have to learn how to strategically handle that. Recovery takes longer. Muscles and nerve systems need more time to bounce back. Now, again, in the chat, or you can raise your hand, if you go work out, or let's say if winter you go shovel snow, or you do something that you're not used to, and you wake up the next morning in your 20s, you would have woke up just fine, moved on with your day. In your midlife, you're like, "Oh my gosh, what did I do yesterday?" You don't need that 24 hours. You need almost 48 to 72 hours to recover now. You're just a hybrid machine. You're not that sleek sports car anymore. You're a hybrid a vehicle. And then again, what worked at 25 won't work now. Your body requires a smarter approach, and that's why we're here and trying to help you guys manage this time. With fuel timing, I want to put a few things in here. Is fuel time is important because we don't want to go into that survival mode where our body just starts to hold on to things because it doesn't know when it's going to get its next fuel or it's going to get its enough to repair. So one of them is eating before training. And that doesn't have to be huge. It can be a small protein and carb snack, especially if you wake up in the morning and work out like I do. I usually wake up right away and go work out. I have to make sure and be intentional to have something small before I go to the gym, because no longer does my body work well on that depleted state. It needs something in it before I get started. The other really important time is around 25 to 30 minutes post workout. You have now depleted, broke down muscle, and it's the most optimal time to get that protein into your system. So often you'll see people grab something like a protein shake that they can it can digest faster, they can get it in their system faster, and then they'll have a bigger meal an hour to 2 hours after. But because your body is in a depleted state and it's almost like a sponge ready to suck that stuff in for to start repair, you want to get that fuel in 25 to 30 minutes post your workout to optimize recovery. We're strategic with this, so these are things that you have to start looking at. I'm not going to go into blood sugar because that's for next week, but fuel timing will help blood sugar balance. Prioritize your sleep for recovery. Tasha talked about that. I touched on that a little bit. So important to get in that system of, I know it's not always easy, get to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time. So important to get into that. And strategic rest days matter. And when I say a rest day, if you're like me, rest day gives me the EBGBs. So a rest day can be going for a walk with your husband, going on a hike with your family, just moving a little bit. But it can be a strategic, I'm just taking a break from working out. But just depends on what that looks like for you, but you have to plan that. Now, we are going to go after this. This is my ending slide. We're going to go and we created an infographic for you guys that is kind of action steps that you can put into practice right away to help with your cortisol, with your cardio, and your fuel timing. So I'm going to look at this sheet first before we go over because it'll make more sense when I show you the infographic. But the focus with the cardio and fuel timing is number one, movement, just to get your body moving. And a general guideline is 150 to 300 minutes a week. I talked about this in our muscle and metabolism, and that could be 5 30-minute sessions a week. Okay. If that seems like too much for you and you have better 2 days during the week and one longer one on the weekend, you can do two 45-minute sessions in the week and a 60-minute one on the weekend, okay? And it doesn't have to be all one stint. And I'll touch on that with find ways to move more. It can be smaller stints in one day. Strength training twice a week. Again, go back to our muscle and metabolism. I gave you things that you can do at home that are super easy and just get you started on that strength, keeping that body strong and starting to build that muscle. Fueling, we want ideally for you to aim towards 1 gram of protein per pound. And if you are on a weight loss journey, that would be 1 pound of your desired body weight. So if my desired body weight on my weight loss program is 125 pounds, my goal would be 125 grams of protein a day. That may seem like a lot for you. So, one thing you can consider is again, supplemental protein, supplemental sources that allow you to get protein outside of just focusing on each meal. We've talked about when you go to your meal, protein first at this season of our life, protein first, and add the extras in. But if you're falling short, supplemental proteins are a great way to do that. And they've become more readily available. Refuel with protein 25 to 30 minutes post workout, super, super important. And last but not least, find ways to move extra. I always think about this park farther away. I park the farthest away from the gym door. Even though I'm going to the gym, I got to walk from my car to my gym door to get the extra steps. Use the stairs instead of the escalator or the elevator. Walk during your kids' sports practices or on your lunch breaks at work. Get up, stand up, move around. Go walk to the copier. My copier is in the room over there. So when I print something, I have to get up and I have to walk down the hallway and I got to go to the printer and I got to bring it back. It's steps, it's movement. And then also, it's okay to break it up into smaller sessions. Okay. Again, when I talk about that 150 to 300, start at the low end, 150. And as you feel comfortable, you can move it up. That is the recommended movement time for the general population. So that's cardio and fuel timing. Now I am going to exit out of this, hopefully. Let's stop this share. Um, we did, and Tasha, are you off mute? Because I'm gonna have you talk about our infographic, part
Okay.
of the infographic. We will upload this to the Midlife Management Facebook page. We also want to allow you guys to ask some questions if you have them. Um, and it'll also, if you're on my list to get the email recordings, I will include it in that too. So let me see if I can share this. See this. You don't need to see my messages. You don't want those. Move over. Need this to move. Here we go. Okay, so let's move your guys' faces out of the way. This is the infographic that we will have loaded for you guys. And this is our kind of quick reference to help you. And Tasha, I'll shut up and you can go and talk about what you have here.
Yeah, so we actually remember when I said I want to give you some helpful tips for getting your cortisol and your melatonin in sync. I'm not trying to eliminate and either of them. We actually probably all want a little bit more melatonin. But one of the things, we also talked about the circadian clock responding to light. So, one of the things to really start to reset that circadian rhythm and to solidify the signal for, hey, cortisol, it's time to come up, is to go out and expose yourself to morning sunlight. I have a friend and she just is like passionate that she goes out and just looks naked eye at the sun every morning. I don't go quite that far, but I do think having the lights come up and exposing yourself to natural sunlight in the morning is good. Upon waking, we want the cortisol to come up, but we want it to come up in a healthy way. So, a few things that I try to do as part of my morning routine is identify three things I'm grateful for, and I take three really long, slow breaths. And I'm learning to breathe again. I'm just gonna admit that I'm learning to breathe again because I think I've taught myself the wrong way. So one of the things I'm doing is I'm closing my mouth and I'm bringing breathing in through my nose really long and really slow. I'm filling up my chest and my belly, and then I'm exhaling really slow with the goal of my exhale to be longer than my inhale. So you could count inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however long. Anyway, so awesome. It's really helping me to tame my cortisol. I want it to come up. I just don't want to go for a rocket ship ride. Um, so again, the goal of this is a healthy rise in cortisol that allows us to start the day with energy and vibrance, right? We want to start the day feeling strong, but not stressed or anxious, which is why we're focusing on the meditation and the breathing and the gratitude. And then of course, hydration, right? Let's hydrate in the morning. And then at the other end of the day, to get your cortisol to come down and allow your melatonin to rise in the evening. And I've been doing this for a long time. Um, I stop eating a minimum of 3 hours before bed because even during the day when my cortisol is up, um, we get little bumps in our cortisol when we eat through the day. We eat breakfast, we get a little bump. We eat lunch, we get a little bump. And that's the cortisol. Remember, cortisol doing its job to help us to do the right things with that rate rise in blood sugar. But 3 hours before I go to bed, I don't want any cortisol production in response to food. I've also noticed, man, when I go to bed and it's been 3 hours since I've eaten, I don't have that bloated, over full feeling and I just sleep better. And then, of course, where we tried to bring the light up and expose ourselves to natural light in the morning, in the evening. And I think everybody knows this, so I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we do need to reduce or limit screen time in the evening. I bought blue light blocker glasses, right? And sometimes I'll put those on in the evening and try to reduce my exposure to screen light. And then, of course, here's some just good recommendations for appropriate, allowing your melatonin to max out appropriately. You want a cool, dark space, right? That facilitates that melatonin rise. And if it's possible, to get 8 hours. I don't right now sleep 8 hours. I guess that means I don't need it. I don't know. I really want it. But again, the goal is to get as much sleep, allow the melatonin to rise appropriately to give you as much sleep as you need for the evening. So, those are my morning and evening recommendations for you. Do any of you guys have something different that you do that helps you? I'm telling
I
you,
figured out I need more than 8 hours.
oh,
Do you, Paula?
So, and for
I
years,
love it.
yeah, for years I was like shooting for 8, and then I realized I was still tired. So I made some lifestyle changes. We go to bed at 9:30 now. And I've got my kids are adults, so they're just doing their thing.
They can handle it.
And then I sleep till 7. So I
Good for
get 9 to
you.
9.5 hours of sleep every
That's
night because
awesome.
Oh,
that's what my body needs.
Right.
I love it.
I was in Cabo and the time was different, but I allowed myself, like, we didn't push to stay up later. We just went to bed when we were tired and slept until we woke up, and I kept track of it as we went through the week. And I was about 7.5 is what I needed, where then my body woke me up. And it was like, okay, I'm ready to go. I opened the blinds. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. And I didn't feel droggy or I needed a nap during the day. But I do know that even if I go to bed at like 8:30 and I'm getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning, I have to have a nap. So obviously it's not enough sleep. So that's amazing, Paul. You picked up on that.
Yeah, I love it. I kind of gave you a little, I don't know, a little hint about what's coming. I just dropped a little nugget in there. Um, in our next webinar, we're going to talk a little bit about insulin, right? And we're going to share some things. And food timing changes everything when it comes to your insulin resistance and beating, like winning the insulin game. So if you can do that, don't eat 3 hours before you go to bed. Like I just quit at 6. I'm just done at 6 p.m. And I don't eat anymore after that. If you can do that, oh my gosh, you're going to win a couple hormone games all in the same fell swoop. So that's my little bit,
Yeah,
Shalene.
we've kind of we're trying to build on it, not give everything away and keep it short and structured for you guys. But it's really hard because you're like, fuel timing, I can talk about this, but I better not. I better just keep it here. But we wanted to open it up for any questions. If you had any questions, if you don't, we will upload this and get it out via email and get it out on our Facebook page. But we'd love to answer any questions if you have any questions, suggestions, things you've done. I know, Shay, this was an exciting one you wanted. Did it help? She said, no, you need to get rid of my kids.
I'm like, Jay, that silence is not very reassuring.
No, I just know that my cortisol's probably been at the nice full cup for months. Just, little drips spilling everything over just with life. So I was just interested to see and hear what this topic was going to be about and what it actually entailed because I'm trying to figure out how to properly get it back down so I don't feel like that full cup that's just waiting to spill over.
Spill out onto everyone all over the table in a very public
Yes.
way. Yes, that's always a bad thing. I just read a book and I think it's called Breath. Actually, my husband got it on Audible. I'm telling you, Shay, it was so good. I'm a science, right? I'm a data, I'm a research nerd, but it was really good. And I really noticed a difference mentally and physically in how stressed I was feeling just by changing my breathing.
Mhm. It's funny, you wouldn't think that is a big deal, but even like I can look back when I was younger and I had an eating disorder and I went to a counselor and they were trying to help me cope with things. She taught me breathing techniques. She's like, when you feel anxious or you just can't control how you're feeling, I want you to center yourself and work on breathing. So it's something they taught me back, way back, and I still do. I forget sometimes, but then when I come back to it and I'm like, just take a second, it'll all be okay. Take a few breaths. It's just amazing what it makes. It does make a big difference.
Yeah,
It's
and
so
Tasha, I loved
silly.
how you were really emphasizing that the breath out is longer than the breath in, so that's, stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. I do this every day with my clients, like, okay, because I work with parents of kids who have special needs, and so of course the parents are all stressed out all the time.
Right.
So yeah, just teaching them mindfulness and grounding, because they are so focused on like how am I going to help my kid? How am I going to help my kid? And I'm like, hey, you got to regulate yourself first before you
Absolutely.
can regulate them. So and I've seen it happen so many times, dozens of times now, and it's always so gratifying to see how somebody because they think they need tools, like they think, oh, I need like supplements or
Mhm.
I need like a book or something. Like, no, you need your own breath.
Yeah, you need to breathe.
Start easy. It's not complicated. Keep it stupid simple. Breathe, number one, and then we'll move on. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Paula. That we appreciate that. All right. If there's no other questions, I'm not seeing anything in the comment section. We'll end it for tonight and then just write down 2 weeks from now. The goal is to have our last of 4 of these series. Doesn't mean we're going to be done. We're just going to move on from these 4 series and we'll be looking for more topics that you guys would like to talk about and,
Yeah, you guys should bring up your topics because Tasha has a whole list of topics she wants to talk about. And it really should be what you want to know, but
Tasha's like,
we
no, I'm going to tell you what I want to tell you.
tell you about all the things.
We appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here tonight. Make
See
sure
you
you take
later.
a deep breath before you go to bed, and we will see you in about 2 weeks.
Okay, see
Thanks
you
so
later.
much.
Yeah.
Have a
Yeah.
good evening.